Hello, I'm just jumping on with a really quick book review. I'd like to focus the channel more across books and toys, partially because I spend more time reading with my children than I do engaging with toys in them. I've got an almost 2-year-old and a newborn. So the benefit of a book, in my opinion, when you've got more than one child in the house, I think is that, particularly if they've got different ages, if I'm reading to my toddler, say while I'm trying to feed baby, not only is it a lovely quiet time activity, it gives the kind of language and literacy benefits to both kids. And also reading aloud throughout my pregnancy, apparently there is evidence to suggest that, you know, the babies take that in utero too. So second children get that huge advantage if you read to your first. So yes. Anyway, I'll give you a bit of an overview of this book, and I do like it. That's why I've gone to the trouble of making this review. I think there are so many books on the market, it's completely overwhelming, and I think this one is fantastic. So as you can tell by the title, it's about ways to be mindful, and it has worked examples that are targeted to children. So the author is also the illustrator, and the pictures are abstract, but they're not so abstract that, you know, my son can't understand what's going on. There's lots happening in each image. So one thing I've noticed is that, you know, he's pointing out that there are birds in the background, or counting the butterflies and that sort of thing. And it's got a lovely rhyme to it. So you start with the word for the particular alphabet letter. So I read it as A is for awareness. Pay attention to your world. It's full of surprises, beautiful things in all shapes and sizes. Then you move on to the next page, and I think it's a good pace, because sometimes toddlers don't like to linger too long on particular pages. So you can read it in short form. So sometimes I'll just say C is for compassion, D is for dream, and move at that pace because toddler is not wanting to pay attention for that long. Otherwise you can read it in full, but even then it's fairly quick. Lovely cadence, lovely rhythm, it's great. The rhyme's just perfect. The bright engaging pictures I really like, and it gives you ideas on ways to be more mindful with your kids, which I think is wonderful in today's day and age. So even here, you could, you know, if you've got a slightly older toddler, maybe more like a 2.5, 3, you can go out and collect rocks and put faces on them and googly eyes and things. And it has, I guess, like a sustainability sort of bent to it as well, that part of being mindful is being a good steward of our planet and our resources. So I think these are wonderful messages to send to kids. I suppose the only warning would be just to bear in mind people's political and religious views if you plan on gifting this book. If you know someone wouldn't appreciate, I guess, like a sort of left-leaning book, maybe don't give it to them. But there's, and it's got mentions to meditating and namaste, and namaste, I believe, is originally a Hindu or Buddhist term. I should really look that up. But yeah, so there's a little bit of cultural stuff going on, so just, bear all of that in mind. But yeah, otherwise, the author is British, I believe, but there's nothing in here that, there's no funny British words or anything that would confuse an Australian toddler, which is another thing to mention. Sometimes I find in books they'll have a term for something that's the American term or the British term. It's quite confusing because it will be different from the Australian term. And as you flick through, you can see it just continues to go through the alphabet. The book itself is hardcover, and I think that is critical with toddlers. Like, in my opinion, if you're going to buy a book, spend the money to get the hardcover version. Just do not even bother with paperbacks. They will be just destroyed. Even this one's looking fairly sort of well loved, but I mean, this book is probably our most read, most loved book of all time, like of everything I've bought, and it's looking pretty good, despite being tossed around by a boisterous almost 2-year-old boy. And then at the back here, it's actually got, a bit of a blurb with some more information about being mindful and activities to do. So as I mentioned, the emotion rocks and making a mandala. And I think anything like this that you can sort of get them engaged with is a good thing. And I do think that working on mindfulness from a young age is a wonderful tool to equip a child with, and something in their toolkit to kind of manage the stresses of life. And even back here at the start of the book, it talks about B is for breathe. And when I read it, or my partner reads it with our son, we actually do a bit of a demo with the breathing, and we encourage him to pause and do a big breath in, pause, big breath out, and just really sort of normalize that as like it's okay if you're feeling stressed to actually pause and breathe. I think if you can, like I said, normalize or just make it habitual from a young age, I think it's a wonderful thing. I had to learn a lot of that stuff in adulthood. I think it would be much easier if I'd learned it as a child. But look, I can't carry on too much more about this book. The only thing I will mention is it's pretty heavy, so it's probably not the best book to sort of cart around, but as an at-home book, it's wonderful. I think it's a gorgeous gift, just bearing all those things I said earlier about gifting it thoughtfully. But yeah, and if I didn't already mention this, I don't think I did. Price-wise, I just Googled it. You can get it on Amazon for $18.75, as that's today's date. But look, yeah, you can easily get it online from a bunch of different places, new or used. Used, you can get it even cheaper. Otherwise, you can support a local retailer like I did. So I got it from a small business down the road, and I believe I paid slightly more, but that's okay, because that's a good thing to support a small business. So yes, I'd better go because a small person needs me, but yes, I would highly recommend this book, and I will talk to you next time.